Salt forms of many parts of the world. The ocean seemingly offer abundant sources of salt, but it has an average salinity of only 3.5%.
This means that for every 100 kilos of water, only 3.5 kilo of salt can be extracted by direct boiling or evaporation, and the process requires significant time and fuel resources. Filipinos, particularly in the Visayas or Central Philippines, have long practiced innovative salt-making methods. It is through salt and the seas we can begin to reconnect with our past and sharpen our focus on our pre-colonial traditions. If you've uncovered the pattern laminated in the Philippine history, you've probably already guessed that the first documented accounts of salt-making came from the Spanish. Perhaps one of the most detailed recording comes from Father Ignacio Alcena, a Spanish historian and missionary who served in the Visayas for 37 years during the 17th century. Pangasinan is the top producer of salt from its name, asin, meaning salt, and affixes, pang, and where they are located.
There are different meanings associated with making salt. First is mangasin, it means to make salt.
Second is manasin, means to eat with salt. Third is asinan, means salt pain. Fourth is asinan, means salt a little. Fifth is asinin, means salt well. And lastly, inasin, means brine, fish sauce, and bagoong.
In the Philippines, there are only 5 places that make salt traditionally.
Ilocos Sur is where they make the Pugo salt, the Pangasinan, the Ilocano salt, Miagao Iloilo, the Budbud, Guimaras, the Tultul, and lastly, Bohol, the Asin Tibuok. Salt making is an integral part of the Philippines' cultural heritage, reflecting the traditional methods passed down through generations in coastal communities. It supports local economies and preserves artisanal techniques, fostering a sense of pride and identity among Filipino salt makers. Furthermore, festivals and rituals centered around salt production celebrate its historical and cultural significance, strengthening community bonds and cultural continuity.
Miagao, in the province of Iloilo, is home to what may be one of the more laborious salt farming methods. Here, the local salt is called Budbud, which means to sprinkle.
Condensing this process in a few short sentences is difficult and warrants its own dedicated issue, which can be done if there is interest. In short, hacenderos use long bamboo poles to carry seawater. Some, when filled, weigh as much or more than the hacendero himself. They sprinkle onto prepared sand so that it becomes concentrated with salt. The prepared sand is piled and sprinkled with more seawater to make a brine, which is collected and left to evaporate in split bamboo. Unique to Budbud is the use of the mountain vine called balunos, which formerly was brought down by the Aitas to trade for a sack of budbud. Without the addition of balunos to the brine, the salt does not form into the crystalline texture desired by the Miagaonons.
Miagao salt or Budbud is an ancient rock salt that has been around Iloilo, Philippines since the 1800s.
The coastal town has been its glory days during those times as salt beds were aplenty across the villages of the province.
Lorlie Noblezada, a registered social worker, 47 years old, from Miagao, Iloilo, is the last woman hacendero or salt maker, standing between the extinction of the traditional salt-making process because of climate change and heavy commercialization. As from what we are standing right now, this used to be all sand, but because of the heavy commercialization, there is already a seawall.
The slow art of making budbud that still uses traditional tools like bamboo branches and sun-drying methods that produce the most beautiful artisanal rock salt that transforms the way people cook. According to Mrs. Lorlie, budbud is really delicious because it goes through fermentation process and the traditional method of adding balunos and salangkugi is very unique. She also said that they still have a barter system with the Miagawanons. Lor, may saging kami di kag mais, pwede ka pa baylo sang asinda? The balunos and salongkugi were actually barter items. The people simply gave them balunos and salongkugi in exchange of salt. It was actually very amazing that the salt process has been alive since the 1820s. There are no books, but they still preserve and revive the culture and the tradition of salt making.
Mrs. Lorlie actually asked this proposal to UP Miagao if they can use a small portion of their property for salt making.
She chose being an hacendera because she realized that if you make salt, it makes you live longer. It helps her avoid illnesses and become healthy as she immersed in seawater. She wants to show that we really need to revive and preserve the salt-making process. As an hacendera, she believed that it should start with her. The passion is there to really be committed. But if it is all about money, then you won't last long in the salt-making industry.
So the process of making budbud starts with a thorough cleaning of the entire area. It takes 2 to 3 months to clean it, removing the rocks, debris, and everything else.
After that, they will build a fence with flaglets to let people know that this area is a salt field. The actual sand they need to irrigate with seawater. After 1 week, they bring a row of sand to the filtration house. In the filtration house, that's where they wash it with seawater. Because of innovation, there's now a faucet to wash the sand with seawater and it gets filtered. From there, it goes to the depository which they call kamao. That's where they collect it and place it in the blue drums. From the blue drums, they take it and put it in the bamboo beds. After 1 to 2 days, depending on the heat and the wind matters a lot. If it is northern and it's hot, it's really nice to make salt. But when the weather is overcast and the wind is from the south, then the salt won't solidify. That is why as an hacendero, you should be really observant, especially in planning if you will have a harvest today or not. From the bamboo beds or duy-duyan, they will proceed to harvest. After harvest, they place it in a depository for a whole night because it is still wet. After a day, they put it in the drying facility with nets and it stays there for 1 day. Afterward, they go to the roasting house. Before, they don't have a roasting house, but because they trained for food safety, it's really necessary to roast the salt to kill the impurities. And after that, they proceed with the packaging there. 500 grams is priced at 100 pesos.
When Miss Lorlie started in 2018, there are still people who makes budbud salt in Barangay Golbungan in Miagao. However, in their case, by 2023, it seems like their salt making is declining because in their area, they're already a siwa, so they no longer have a shoreline for salt production. The sand has significant role for the hacendero because it filters the seawater. And in towns of Baybay Norte and Baybay Sur who are salt makers before also stopped due to the certain shoreline and the seawall. Before, when it's summer, the heat was continuous, but now it's not like that anymore. It can be really sunny in the morning and in the afternoon it will start to rain.
Mrs. Lorlie, it is really a challenge to innovate if she wants to revive and preserve while keeping the traditional way of making salt.
Since she got an agreement with UP, she was able to consult professors, DTI, DOST, and Coastline 5023 discussing what's possible and exploring options.
The hacendera said that she heard the news that the Philippines is still importing salt, but according to her, salt is very abundant in the Philippines. She just wished that even though there is innovation, the dying salt-making industry would be revived.
She hopes that there is a collaboration for salt makers to bring it back, and maybe the government should also focus and invest on them. She realized that the government's focus is more on why produce salt when we can just buy it. In her opinion, through the local government unit, they can collaborate to support and assist other salt makers and revive the industry.
As a registered social worker, Mrs. Lorlie believed that salt making was her life. She truly wanted to be a salt maker because her passion lies there.
The salt-making place provided them an avenue to continue the dyeing industry, pass it on the next generation, and create a social-cultural impact. Mrs. Lorlie believed that it's really a privilege to be an asindera, and she is really proud of it.
So, maayong adlaw sa tanan. Ari kita subong sa Depol Seasalt sa Miagao, Iloilo, and upod naton subong si Ma'am Lorlie Noblezada, which is ang owner sang aton nga Budbud Seasalt.
Ang maayong aga sa tanan. Ako gali si Lorlie Noblezada, ang asendera ng Miagao, nga kung sa diin ang riga kita tilad sa amon nga asinan, nga kung sa diin nagay mo kami ka Budbud asin ng Miagao.
So, ang first question namon, ma'am, is a traditional way of salt making po ba is ginpamana sa inyo or na ginlearn nyo lang on your own?
Bali ang Budbud nga asin ka Miagao nagumpisa kang 1823 nga kung diin naging dyeing industry tanap. So bali ang akin nga bana ika 4th generation nga nagahimo sa dakang asin. So bali akin bali kung baga tungod nga nakita ko nga tungod nga registered social worker ako, nakita ko nga naging dyeing industry ana, so yung nga ana man nga i-revive pag isa buli ka akin bana nga manog asin.
Ang pagubra po ba sang aton nga asin is nagaabot for pila ka weeks or
okay. Ang pagubra kang atin nga, ang proseso kang pagubra kang atin nga asin, nagalabot man tanati almost 7 days to 10 days. Ganyan nga sa atin kadya nga proseso kapag asin, napaka-importante ka naman ang baras o sukayan nga kung sa diin ginabunyagan dira ka tubig dagat sa 7 ka adlaw. Kagamura dyan naman kara gina-filter o ginasara ang tubig dagat sa pagimo ka asin.
Ano po mahambal mo sa unti-unti na ngaya gadula ang traditional way nga pagubra sa salt?
So nakita ang bali ang bilog nga coastal area kami agaw kadya kauna alin sa barangay Talampitaw pagto sa barangay Naratan is asinan industry kita nara. So balik ang bata pa kami, especially ang amon mga nga barangay asinan industry dyan nga kung sa diin nakita ginamon nga kang garagmay pa kami nga nagaasin. So balik ang naging registered social worker ako, so nabalaka ko nga naging daying tana. So ano ang dapat nga obrahan, di ba no nakakaiba pag may gin-iskwilahan kita, kay ang amo dyan nga mga bagay nakita mo bala nga dapat ginatawaan ka value kay ti parte ka kultura naman. So ti amura ang nag-udyok man kanakan bilang isa ka babayi nga makakuna ko nga this is the essence of being a woman, nga dapat paagi sa mga babayi itibong ang mga kultura nga naging daying rentana.
Pero kaya ayan ang iban bala nga like wala na nila gina-continue
okay. So ang sa amon man nga experience kag sa observation kag sa interview sa mga manog asin nga nakita nga una best ang very challenging ang climate change. Dagad nga napaka-importante ka naman bay ang baras nga sa pag-asin. So nakita rin nga ang nagamay rin ang shoreline. Dagad may mga seawall, dagad kang bagyo, ang daw nagataas ang tubig. Ang sarap pagid nga nakita ko nga tingad ang mga kamal-ama naman nga uratan datigin isbilan. So nakita lang nanda ang kabudlayan. Nga po nanda very laborious kind of work. Di amal nanda sa kabat hindi nagamo mag-asin. Daw amura ang sara. Dayon ang sa industriya tingad nga nakaluyan, nakaseminar ako sa DTI, DST. So nakita ko gali nga dapat may ginatawag na sustainability. So amura gali ang mga malam na mga kato, uratan dati sustainability, kagurati mga innovation. Napakahalaga man ang innovation sa traditional nga mga industriya. Tungod nga dapat may innovation kita na para nga maka-feel tana or maging flexible tana sa mga challenges sa mga next nga mga 10 years or 20 years. So amura ang nakita kung nga mga bagay ko nga naging dying tana. Kag ang sara wala tana ti market. Kay ang amon kadya nga asin kung hindi tana kauna bay wala na man gina roasting, wala na man gina sunlog. So ang amon nga asin nagabasa tana, naga-moist. So tingid nga naga-moist tana daw budlayan kami i-market bala. Kaya di ba no, imbis nga mapamahal mong asin mo, tingad nga basa, so ikaw na lang mismo nga nagabaligya, daw gaayo. If imbis ting baligya mo ti 50, kuno mo na lang 20 na lang.
Para mabakal.
para mabakal na lang. So amura ang sa 6 years naman nga pagbalik sa pag-asin, amura ang nakita naman nga mga rason kung nga naging dying industry tana.
Ano mention mo ang imo husband, like dimbuligan mo siya ma'am. Like may plano ka, like mga bata mo kabalo ba sila like mag-ubra sa traditional way?
So bali ang kabataan naman tila tingid nga di ba naga-training kami. So na ano ra na in love na ko kadyan sa asinan. So ginapaintindi ko gidi may siyam kami kakabataan. Dayon tingin sa pag-asin, tatlo ron ang nakagraduate, criminology, marine kag nautical. So ginpaintindi ginamon sa kabataan namon nga napaka-importante kadyan ang asin kay ti kultura natin. Kag nagatao kita naka bread and honey sa atin nga pamilya nga masuplaya na ang atin nga kinanlanan sa matag adlaw. Ti luwas kara ni ginapukaw na ang pagka-Pilipino naman nga this is our culture, di ba? No?
Yes.
So, kag ang kung sa piyak riman nga bahin, kung nag-aasin ikaw buhay ka mapatay. Kaya di ba no, ang immune system mo sa pag-imo ka-asin because nga it's all natural. So, wala ka gawa ti balatian.
Last na lang yung question for sa akon nga part. Ano po ang imo na feel nga like wala na gina-patronize ang traditional way bala sang pag-ubra sang salt kay di ba ma'am damo ng mga advanced technology nga pag-ubra nagagamit or ga-ubra sang asin.
Okay. Ang akala ma'am sa nga amura bala na behind ang mga artisanal or traditional nga pamamaraan ng paggawa ng asin kay tingad nakita ko nga ano nga of course hindi kita mawala ng pag-asa kay ti kami ganin sa 6 years sura man kami naglaom nga amo dya maabutan kang budbud nga asin kami Miagao tulad pagi sa Dipol Salt Artisanal Salt Manufacturing nga kung sa diin ano tingad lang nga kulang lang sa information drive. So nakita natin nga tingid nga may media, may mga vlogger, example kay Sir Erwan Yusuf nga tanagin ang nakabukas nga amat-amat nga nakilala. So natandog man ang mga kapwa natin mga Pilipino nga magkaroon sanda kang kagipusoon niya to buy lokal. Kagay nakita nandaing nga ang amudya tanan nga pagimukasin is all natural. So rata na ti ginabot nga chemicals kag may pagmamahal. So siguro amat-amat little by little so matawaan gid ra ka importansya kag mabakal gid sanda.
So ano po ang imo nga ma-message sa aton nga mga kabataan kag future generations about sa inyo po nga business?
Okay. Sa mga next generation sa pag-asin ka ti dapat nga tangkilikin natin kay ti amo gid ang kultura. Ilabi na gid sa mga taga Miagao nga kung sa diin itaw-an gid kahalaga. Kagdayon kami sa Dipol Artisanal Salt Manufacturing ang sara naman nga ginandam nga pagi sa bulig LGU, NGO man ra ang kinanlan nga mag-connect to each other, mag-link to each other. Kaya nakita ko gali nga napakalawak ng atin nga karagatan nagaurat inagaasin. So bilang registered social worker nakita ko nga kinanlan gali nga i-organize ra ang mga community nga sa mga coastal area kag i-introduce ang pag-asin kananda. Kay ayan paagi sa pagbinuligay kara. So ang atin nga pamilya, ang atin nga komunidad, ang buong bansa ng Pilipinas ay asinsado.
Asinsado.
Para sa tanan ti asinsado tayo.
So thank you very much Ma'am Lorlie. So salamat gid sa inyo nga pag-cater sa amon kag paghimo sang imo nga table dire. So yes. So thank you gid sa inyo nga time sa sa aton nga interview and tani ng malawak pa or mas madako pa hopefully sa future ang aton nga ng artisanal nga industry. So madamo gid nga salamat ma'am.
Madamo man nga salamat sa kaninyo nga mga estudyante sa taga CPU Region nga sa pagtao kanamon kang halaga importansya nga nagusik man kamo kanyong oras sa pag-agturigya. So salamat gid kay ang little by little ang ginataw-an gid man ka importansya ang mga artisanal nga paghimo ka asin. God bless, to God be the glory.
God bless po. Thank you.
Magandang buhay sa ating lahat. Ako po pala si Lorlie Noblezada, ang asendera ng Miagao.